We're going to return to Proverbs 29. I told uh, Bernita 28, but it's 29. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke will be suddenly and incurably broken. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke will be suddenly and incurably broken. When the righteous flourish, the people rejoice. But when the wicked are in power, the people groan. Whoever loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a patron of prostitutes wastes his wealth. A king gives stability to a country by justice, but one who overtaxes it brings it to ruin. A person who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his own steps. In an evil person's crime is a trap, but the righteous sing and rejoice. The righteous understands the cause of the poor, but the wicked is unconcerned. Scoffers can inflame a city, but the wise can calm the fury. When a wise man argues with a foolish one, he meets anger and ridicule without relief. Men of blood hate those who are pure and seek the life of the upright. A fool gives vent to all his feelings, but the wise, thinking of afterwards, stills them. If a ruler listens to lies, if a ruler listens to lies, if a ruler listens to lies, all his officials will be wicked. The poor and the oppressor have this in common. Yah gives light to the eyes of both. If a king steadfastly gives justice to the poor, his throne will be secure forever. The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame on his mother. When the wicked flourish, wrongdoing flourishes. When the wicked flourish, wrongdoing flourishes. When the wicked flourish, wrongdoing flourishes. But the righteous will witness their downfall. Discipline your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will be your delight. Without a prophetic vision, the people throw off all restraint. But he who keeps Torah is happy. Without a prophetic vision, the people throw off all restraint. But he who keeps Torah is happy. A slave, there's that word again. A slave can't be disciplined with words. He may understand, but he won't respond. Do you see someone too anxious to speak? There is more hope for a fool than for him. A slave is pampered from youth. A slave who is pampered from youth will in the end be ungrateful. Angry people stir up strife. Hot-tempered people commit many crimes. Let me read that again. Angry people stir up strife. Hot-tempered people commit many crimes. The proud will be humbled, but the humble will be honored. And we've discussed what being humble really is, and it's not what most of us think it is. The accomplice of a thief hates himself. He hears himself put under oath, but discloses nothing. Let me read that again. The accomplice of a thief hates himself or herself. He hears himself put under oath, but discloses nothing. Fearing human beings is a snare, but he who trusts in Yah will be raised high. And in parentheses it has above danger. Many seek the ruler's favor, but it is from Yah that each gets justice. An unjust person is an abomination to the righteous, but he who lives uprightly in an abomination to the wicked. But he who lives uprightly is an abomination to the wicked. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke will be suddenly and incurably broken. Saints, there's a price to pay for being stubborn, highly opinionated, and just difficult to look at things any other way other than the way you think it is. Most of us will trust our eyes. And most of us will lean to what we think we see, not knowing the whole story. Most of us will jump to conclusions with only partial facts. In the coming days, I would advise you, and you do with it what you will, in your prayer time, begin to implement facts and accurate information when you pray. you may begin to see a manifestation. In fact, in your daily walk in life, gather as much facts and accurate information in all your dealings. Too much innuendo, half-truths, and some of us are just being lied right to our face. And because we have come up in an environment where we've been trained to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, it has worked against us. I also would advise you, and you do with it what you will, to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's very dangerous, and with the tightening of the economy, more people will be doing things that they customarily may not do. Pressure's coming. And most of us will find out who we really are under pressure. And pressure's coming to everybody, not just those that are making life difficult for others. Even good people will experience pressure. Even those of the Most High. But we have his teachings and instructions to help us. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel some heat. But he'll bring us through if we faint not. And if we are in search of facts and accurate information. You know, sometimes you can pray, and if your information is faulty, do you think that prayer is going to be answered just because you prayed? If a person doesn't tell you what's really going on, and they give you a story that's more palatable, and you pray in all earnest, all of how you've heard some of the TV folks pray, do you think that's going to come to pass? In the coming days, it's going to be more and more important that truth be spoken. And that way it will quiet some of these talking heads that are giving out a lot of misleading information. How can you even make a quality decision about your life when the information you have is faulty? You're not going to make a good choice. And you know, for most of us, what do you mean I love God with all my heart? Why is this happening? Even some of the stuff we've been taught. I told you before, start rereading. The way some of us have memorized scriptures, it's inaccurate. That's why some of this stuff has not manifested. It's not so much that the Most High is withholding. In some of our cases, he never said what we were told, or what we heard preached. it was twisted. Perhaps during translation. Perhaps during somebody's message. You know, there have been a lot of things prophesied, decreed, I mean, and it's been said, you can't say it any better than if they made a movie and that stuff didn't come to pass. And most of the church world still running around in search of a word. Am I saying there are no prophets? No, I am not. I'm not qualified to say that. My resume is not that strong. But a lot of stuff has been prophesied, and it's by the grace of the Most High that we're not back in the first century, because they would have been killed. Be in pursuit of facts. Be in pursuit of accurate information. You need that. We need that. Because there's too much emotional stuff mixed in with a hallelujah every now and then. And it's not doing the people any good. Some of us think, I'm prepared for war. No, you're not. Don't be so anxious to go into battle. Battle is ugly. People get hurt in battle. People die in battle. And some of us are very squeamish. It's not playing out there, folks. You know, now I'm not saying that we need to be wringing our hands, but we need to toughen up a little bit before we start talking about going into battle. We need to win the battle within our own hearts and minds first. He who remains stiff-necked after much rebuke. And rebuke is just correction. And sometimes it's stern, and sometimes you might even be embarrassed about it. But if we take it and we internalize it and we say, hey, I'm going to do a 180 where that's concerned, not a 360. See, when we find ourselves repenting about the same thing over and over again, we're really not sorry about it. And so a lot of us say, well, I know I'm going to do it again next week, so I'm not even going to pray. And we think I'm being honest before God. But that's still a hazardous mindset. We need to keep in mind, he doesn't think like we do. What is it? My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. As high as the heavens are, above the earth are my ways and thoughts than yours. Why don't we believe that? If we can recite it, why don't we believe it? A key word is choice, choosing. We have decisions to make. And we need to make good decisions, and we need the right information to make good quality decisions, particularly concerning our lives and those who we say we love. And we haven't always gotten good, accurate information, factual information. We got a lot of what people believe, but that hadn't helped us real well. There is truth out there. There is truth out there. And I'm not saying that we won't make mistakes. Yeah, we will. But not as many as we constantly make. Sometimes we make decisions and we know that that decision will self-sabotage us, and we do it anyway. Why? Why do we do that? When the righteous flourish, the people rejoice. But when the wicked are in power, the people groan. I mean, you know, all of this kind of stuff is right today. And it's not just talking about, particularly here in America, we think everything, you know, like we're the standard. No, we're just one of many. And I'm not here to poo-poo America, because there's a lot of good in America, but there, you know, America, like everywhere else, got its issues. All of us sitting in here got issues. What are we doing about the issues in our lives? But see, it's more palatable to not look at ourselves and fix your eyes on somebody else. We do. I don't know. It's well, I can help you, brother. I can help you, sister. Our own foundation has to be sure before we really can be of service to somebody. And we need to have the courage to face our issues. Because, you know, the good news is hardly anybody knows about your issues but you and the one that made you. So why can't we come clean with our manufacturer? See, somebody that loves God with all of their heart, you continually make poor choices, bad choices. That's what we get. I know a lot of times we've been told that, well, you know, if you misstep, you know, he'll pick you up and dust you off, and yeah, maybe sometimes. But that was when we first got in, because we were so excited and we didn't know better. But those of us that have been with him for decades and decades and decades and decades, what's our excuse? We're so proud to talk about how much Torah we study. And we keep making bad decisions. There's a disconnect, folks. We got to do better. We got to do better. Whoever loves wisdom brings joy to his father. But a patron of prostitutes wastes his wealth. Those are two interesting thoughts. Said something about some of the priests back in the day. Um, you know, most of us know that's been going to church anytime soon. Everybody knows the passage where it says, "There's nothing new under the sun." Men have had a problem consuming too much wine and letting our eyes get us in trouble. And folks, I'm here to tell you that even reached the ranks of some priests back in the day. Some of them had to be encouraged to stay focused on their duties in the temple. And nothing has changed. If a man or a woman really is not careful, the same dilemmas that they faced in the first century, we still face today. But you got to make a choice. You got to decide. See, along with free will comes the responsibility of almost, for lack of a better term, righteous choosing, righteous decision making. You know, I know sometimes when things get kind of topsy-turvy like they are now, some of us might think, well, Father, why didn't you just, you could just say it and make us all do right. But it appears from the writings, he instituted free will because he wanted us to want to do what's right. He wanted us to want to do what's right. Could he have just, yeah, he could have just, well, hey, here you go. And Barry, you never mess up. Well, but that's not what he wanted. And you all have heard me say in times past, if he wanted a robot, he would have made us robots. But that's not what he wanted. And again, I'm not saying that like I'm an authority on him. I'm saying that out of what I've been reading. Okay? Because again, for the 1,000,000th time, I am not on his council. He doesn't knock on my door. Barry, I'm getting ready to do this. What do you think about it? And I hope I never, ever carry myself and give off that kind of aura, because that's a stench. I'm not on his council. He doesn't run everything by me. He rules and reigns all by himself. And even when we don't like or don't understand what's coming down the pike, guys, we got to like it or lump it. Now, I know we've heard teachings and we've heard people say things that will give you the impression like he runs stuff by their ministry. And that's dangerous. And those of us that live in the United States, some of us think he checks with America before he does anything. And that's sad. That's actually sick, and that's perverted. And it's a lie. A king gives stability to a country by justice, but one who overtaxes it brings it to ruin. You know, this financial thing, and I'm not going to stay on it long, but, hey, everybody's feeling the pinch. You know, you got one group of Americans talking about, yeah, but China getting ready. Look, China got its own problems. Sometimes we're so full of ourselves, and that's why we make so many outlandish statements. But guys, even a moron knows when something's affecting the whole world, that's got to be the Most High. This medical crisis, it's affecting the whole world. Now, I know a lot of us, because of the way we've been taught, the devil busy. Well, let me ask you something. Did the devil make himself? You don't have to answer. Just think about that. Did the devil make himself? Oh, there's going to be a war, and there's going to be an uprising and all that. Wait a minute. My last advice, and again, you do what you will with it. You really want to know where most of the information about who the Most High is can be found? Go back to what we call the Older Testament and read. Because, and here's another scripture we all know by heart. He basically said, I'm God, I change not. So if he said it previous and he don't lie, he doesn't lie. Men lie, but he doesn't. If we go back and we start rereading and restudying, our prayers will change. And in the coming days, we're going to really need to know who it is we serve. A person who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his own steps. I pray that all of you, whether you owning or renting, got good neighbors. And you know what the best type of neighbor is? The kind that speak to you when they see you. The kind that if they're going out of town or you going out of town, you can let them know and they'll get your mail for you. I I had a situation last week, and I try to be a good neighbor, but I kind of want to be left alone. And oh boy, I was walking to the service station to get my vehicle, and these new neighbors, and most of my neighbors on my street, God bless them, they're passing away, they're downsizing, and they're moving away, and my street is getting younger and louder. And I was like, golly, man, when I moved out here, it was like this, it was like that, it was just so nice. I was like, well, you've been out here 16, 17, 18, 19 years. Stay with the neighbors. I was walking to get my car because the place where I get it worked on is about probably about a mile and a half from my house. One of the last few neighborhood mechanics, and they're honest and they do good work. Well, these new neighbors, the guy I guess he was coming home from work. I was going this way. He was coming back, and I live on a cul-de-sac, and he lives down, and in the back of his house is a nice lake. It's real nice. So he said, Barry, where you on your way? I said, well, I'm going up here to get my vehicle. He says, hey, man, I'll give you a ride. Can I give you a ride? And y'all, I really didn't feel like walking, but I was like, oh, man, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Would you? You know how you do. Would you? So he says, yeah, get in, man. He turned around, he took me on up there, got my truck, and it's got a CD player in it. I had to have some warranty work on it. My old one, I let my brother have it, and then he said I can't get it back. But 2 days later, there was a knock at my door. And this was on a Thursday. And again, I told you, when I'm at home, I just like being at home. I don't always answer the phone, but I got an answering service. So I was just trying to have some me time. Doorbell rang. I went to the door, and it was that neighbor that gave me a ride. And so, I answered, hey, how you doing? Yeah. And he says, Barry, my wife and I, we see you come in early in the mornings and everything, and we were just getting ready to sit down for dinner, and she asked me to come over and invite you over to our house for dinner. I could have went, y'all, but I didn't. I didn't lie. I wanted to rest. Now, you all know I clean buildings every day, every day, every day. So what I told him was, because I don't know if his wife can cook. She might be awful. He's going to eat it, but I don't want to be subject to that. And so I told him, I said, well, look, I've got to go out and get couple of buildings straight. And he said, well, okay, maybe another time. And I said, wow, okay, yeah. And I shut the door, and I tell you, I just felt bad. But not bad enough to say, wait a minute, I'll go. So, immediately, I'm trying to justify what I just did. I'm like, well, now, Father, I'm tired. I work all the time, and da-da-da, da-da-da. And then I did say, and I don't know if that woman can cook. Because now, just me, if I come to to anybody's house, somebody invite me over and I come, I'm going to try to get down whatever you done prepared. And I said, man, I just don't feel like going through all that. And then I go, what we going to talk about? I hardly know these people. I said, see, this is why. Then I started complaining to him. This is why, I don't bother nobody. What is going on here? So then I said, well, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Because I really don't want to start something like that. Because some people, they're very neighborly, and if you start that, they'll want to make it almost a weekly or bi-weekly thing. And I just ain't with that. When I'm at home, I just want to enjoy being at home. That's all. And I don't think that's asking for too much. So they were walking their dog, and I was coming in, and I said, listen, there's this place I want to take you all to. See, I still don't want to go to their home for dinner, because then I don't want to feel like I got to invite them to my house for dinner. So I said the best thing to do is invite them out to dinner. I take them both out to dinner. And then I'm going to explain to them, I work all the time and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, I want to be neighborly. I want to be friendly. But I want to be left alone. And so they hey, great. And I said, I'll get back with you. And I'm going to do that now. Because I wouldn't have put that out there if I'm not going to do it. Because I think one of the worst things we as believers can do is tell somebody you're going to do something and then don't do it. But I got to tell you, I'm going to make another confession. I'm kind of dreading it. I want things to go well, but not so well that they say, we got to do this again. And I know some of y'all said, that boy, he's a weird animal. But I tell you, if you got the type of life where you're being pulled in a lot of directions, you welcome the ability to go home and just shut everything out and shut everything down. But, if you don't retire, and I'm not knocking nobody retired, and you can get up in the morning or whenever, midday, evening, or whatever, that's all right. That's beautiful. That's nice. Happy for you. But everybody don't have it like that. And so I'm thinking of all this stuff. Now, I remember he was talking to me when he was going over. I know his wife had flown over to London for something. I was like, wow, man. I know she making some serious money. Now I see why he married to her. I said, she over in London doing business, my goodness. But then I said, well, shoot, if she over there in London, she still can't cook. Why didn't you say we're having something catered over? Then I said, oh, well, of course. I'll put on my ascot and smoke jacket and I'll be over with a bottle of wine. Folks, there will come a time where hopefully neighbors won't necessarily need each other, but it is comforting to know that you got good neighbors. And it's imperative upon us to be good neighbors. Right in your community. You know, it's nothing worse than you might be the only believer on the block, and you the one they say, that's a mean person over there. Now, what kind of representation is that? And then you come to church and tell me, I live on the street with a bunch of heathens. Yeah, but them heathens say you the meanest thing on the block. And then you get in here talking about how much we love God. Well, I'm going to let y'all know how that thing goes. But it is important to be good neighbors. In fact, one of my neighbors, she downsized, and a young couple moved in next door. But we had the same kind of relationship. When they would go out of town or whatever, we would get each other's mail and all of that kind of stuff. But I remember when her husband passed, and he had been sick for quite a while. And I told her, I said, if you ever need anything, you know, please don't hesitate to call. I gave her my home number. I gave her my cell number. And I think I shared it with you all a while back, because that's the same neighbor that had locked her keys in the car at a U-Crops not that far from our house. She called me to come get her. I was cleaning a building. I stopped cleaning the building, got in my truck, came to U-Crops. She was there. The store manager was with her. And when I walked in, she come running up to me and she hugged me. And I know the people were looking like, what is going on here? And she goes, this is my neighbor. I took her home and she got the extra set of keys. But we had lived by one another, I don't know, 15, 16 years. I had cut their grass when her husband took ill. And I was doing it on the regular until one day I saw their son come over to visit. And he came over to visit while I was cutting their grass. Now, I'm tired. I'm sweaty. I'm smelly. And he comes over. He speaks. I got to thinking, I said, wait a minute. He younger than me. These his parents. But different folks do things differently. I had never really talked with her a lot. I talked more with her husband. But when I got the news that he had passed, because several times I had seen an ambulance, because, you know, them lights flashing and stuff, had come to the house next door. And she was at the mailbox, and I was at my mailbox. And she called to me, and I walked over to her, and that's when she told me. And I was like, you know, I wanted to offer my condolences, but even then, after she told me that, she reached out and grabbed me and hugged me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I wonder what the neighbors think. Now, I don't, I know they don't think nothing stupid, but I can imagine how that looked. But that's when I told her right then and there. And I meant that then. I didn't, this wasn't politically correct, a response. I really meant that. And there were times where she thought she heard something in her house, and she called me. I went over right away. I checked the whole house. I said, there's nobody in here. Leave your lights on. So you do. It's important. You want to be good neighbors. The neighbor across the street from me, he had met my father and his wife. And I'm only sharing this because, again, not about me. It's about being a good neighbor. His wife called and asked if I would ride to the pharmacy to pick up the prescription. I said, of course. I got in my truck, went on over there, and they gave me all the information, and I went in there and went through the drive-through because I didn't know what to do. I don't fool with a lot of medicine stuff, and I'm not knocking medicines, so don't take that. Don't take it that way. But when she passed first, and her son-in-law came over, and he said, and he knew my name. I didn't know how he knew my name. He said, well, she talked about you all the time. Because I used to go in sometime because he no longer could get up and down the steps. And I had to go down in the basement because she didn't do too good with steps either. And when you see people in their humanity, you realize how precious the whole human race really is. See, they weren't putting on pretenses, and I wasn't either. They were just being people, wanting some assistance. And I got a chance to introduce my dad to the gentleman and the son-in-law. And to be honest with you, my neighbor, he's in one of those assisted living facilities. And he's got a bit of, I think, Alzheimer's. But his son-in-law said, he asked about me. Now, he's been gone a while. He's been living over there a while. And it's surprising what people will remember. But again, we weren't in each other's home all the time. This type of relationship developed over 14, 15 years. And it's because we were neighbors, but we respected boundaries. And that's why one of the first things I wanted to do as functioning pastor was to reestablish the fact that we will respect boundaries. They are necessary. They keep snakes out of your house. They keep serpents from within your inner circle. When you're giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, you got all kind of vermin that'll seep its way in. And we have suffered because of that. We can and we will do better. In an evil person's crime is a trap, but the righteous sing and rejoice. The righteous understands the cause of the poor, but the wicked is unconcerned. You know, I really was kind of taken aback by how the family of the Most High had become so callous about the many lives that were being lost due to this medical crisis. It was like you were getting the score to a football game or something. And I remember I said here, I said, what has happened to us? We're not even sad anymore. It's like, hey, you know, another 50,000 people died. Next week, we're having a bake sale. And I'm like, what happened to EWC used to care? We used to care. When did we become so callous? When did we become callous and careless? I have a pretty good idea when, but I'm going to keep it to myself for right now. Scoffers can inflame a city, but the wise can calm the fury. Folks, and I'm going to close on this one because I don't have but about a few minutes. Be careful around somebody that's always complaining about something. You don't, you know, we're all having a tough time. And we all are being inconvenienced one way or another. But there's something that we can be either grateful for, we can smile about, or you know, see a better day ahead. But be careful. And if that person's in your group, when they start complaining, try to change the conversation. I'm not saying, no, don't break out your Bible and start reading scripture. Don't do that. I mean, that's the way some of us been trained. We think that's the answer to everything. And if somebody breaking in your house at 2 o'clock in the morning, do not reach for your Bible. Try to change the subject. And hopefully they'll be perceptive enough that they'll realize what you're trying to do. And some might go along with the program. But a person that always is complaining or is unhappy about something, they'll steal your joy. And you have to ask yourself, why am I always in the company of this person? I mean, me, if I can spot them, I want to go the other way. Because some people like living in that state of depression like that. And you gotta be careful about that, because there is a sort of soothing when you're feeling sorry for yourself. Because you get to telling yourself, nobody really know what I'm going through. Nobody but you, Lord. And he done heard that 1,000 times. And sometimes we might need to check to make sure to see if maybe he ain't the source of the discomfort. Not the devil. Don't get in an argument with the person. But as best you can, particularly if you're out shopping or you're at dinner. And I I'm gonna end on this. Why is it, ladies, and don't answer, but I just want y'all to think about this. I get real nervous when I go to a place to eat. Now, I ain't been in quite a while because people still give me the heebie-jeebies. But if I go in a restaurant and there's a group of ladies and they together, I don't care if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, there's always one in the group that don't like something the way it was either made or got to change something, or they don't like the waitress or the waiter. What's up with that? What is up with that? And if you're that person, I would like to talk to you after service. And you know if that's you. I'm like, look like you all would be having a good time. And sometimes you ain't even paying for the meal. What is up with that? Interesting. God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. Thank you all for coming. We're going to stay and we're going to finish out Proverbs. There's a lot of factual, actual information in Proverbs. And it applies to today. It's not just something you come to church to hear. Good word today, and then by Tuesday you can't even remember nothing. Don't be like that. In fact, that's really not what church is about for real, to be flat out honest with you. We're supposed to be building, not just memorizing. It's supposed to become a part of your character, a part of who you are. And it ought to be demonstrated in your life, in your choices, in what you say, in how you pray. And it shouldn't be stale. And it shouldn't be of no effect. And it shouldn't be like last week's fish. God bless you.